What do you think is the greatest song in Philippine history? If you said Ang Huling El Bimbo by the Eraserheads, I don't blame you. I mean, it's the first song that every beginner Filipino guitarist learns. And it was the last song that the legendary Pinoy rock station, NU 107, played before signing off for the last time. Before becoming Wish 107.5. And the song's impact is still felt today. It even inspired a musical. But if you're a little bit older, you might say, Ang Himig Natin. By the Juan de la Cruz Band. The story goes that the band was waiting to perform at a concert called Himig Natin, or Music. And the band saw the irony in this. The concert was called Our Music, but the bands were mostly doing covers of English songs. So when their manager said that an original song would make them stand out, Pepe Smith knew exactly what to write about. All he needed was a quiet place to write. Easier said than done at a rock concert, right? So he did what any rational person would do. He found the girls' bathroom, which was thankfully under repair, and he broke through the planks to get inside. He wrote the song in 25 minutes, and they performed it for the first time that same night, which some call the beginning of Pinoy rock. And some people even argue that it was the beginning of OPM as we know it today. But I'm not talking about that song. I'm talking about a song that was written over 120 years ago during the Philippine-American War as a protest against American rule. A song that was translated, rewritten, and 70 years later would be used as a protest song again. But this time, not against a foreigner, but a Philippine president. And when that president became a dictator, he banned the song from being played in public, which caused the song to become even more popular, eventually becoming the song of the EDSA revolution. It's a song so important that there are those who say that this should be the Philippine national anthem. I'm talking, of course, about Bayan Ko, the greatest song in Philippine history. This video is sponsored by the Ryan Rambles channel members and my supporters on Patreon. You guys rock. Spoiler warning. Minor spoilers for the movies General Luna and Goyo. Do you know this guy? That's Alvin Anson, playing General Jose Alejandrino in the film General Luna. In this scene, he and Luna were pissed off at these two turncoats, Esteban Costales and Pedro Paterno, who wanted to ally with the Americans after the Philippines gained their independence from Spain. The generals Luna and Alejandrino, of course, wanted to fight their new invaders from the start. But unfortunately, no one listened to them, leading to one of the film's most iconic lines.
Para kayong mga birhen na naniniwala sa pag-ibig ng isang puta!
Fast forward to the movie Goyo, and Alejandrino was the one sent to Manila along with 13 prisoners of war. He was supposed to release the American soldiers in exchange for a meeting with American generals to bargain for our independence. But honestly, this didn't do much because the Americans wouldn't recognize the Philippine Republic as a republic, referring to President Aguinaldo as just General Aguinaldo. But it did give us this funny scene.
Nasa konstitusyon ba talaga yan?
Huwag kang magulo, hindi ko rin alam.
So what did this guy have to do with the greatest song in Philippine history? Well, he was the one who wrote it. Yes, General Jose Alejandrino wrote Bayan Ko. Not Freddy Aguilar, as some people believe, and not even Jose Corazon de Jesus, who translated the song into Tagalog in 1929. But more on him later. For now, let's go back to Goyo and the play that they're watching in this scene, which is a reference to the Zarzuela Walang Sugat, or Unwounded. The musical was written by Severino Reyes, later known as Lola Bashang, when he rebranded when he wanted to write children's stories. Reyes wrote it as a statement against the Americans, but set the play during the 1896 revolution against Spain instead, trying to get around American censorship. But the Americans saw right through that. They called it subversive and threw him in jail. To be fair, it was pretty obvious that it was anti-American. Let's take a look at the song that Alejandrino wrote for the Zarzuela, Nuestra Patria, the song that would eventually become Bayan Ko. I don't actually speak any Spanish, so let's look at the English translation of the original first verse. Our Philippine homeland, whose land is of gold and purple, so many treasures hidden under, that tempted the thief. And that is why the Anglo-Saxon, with vile treachery, is subjugating it. My homeland in prison. Free yourself from the traitor. Let's focus on this line, and the term Anglo-Saxon, or in the original Spanish, Anglo-Sajon, meaning English people or descendants of English people, but really meaning the Americans. And actually, we still call some Americans that today. The term WASP, or White Anglo-Saxon Protestants.
Look, Chris, it's a whole family of wasps.
My Margaret, what a subpar ham.
Meaning the old rich of America with English ancestors. And I think by calling the Americans this term, a term associated with their former colonizer, Alejandrino is pointing out the irony that a former colony is now the colonizer. A colonizer that is refusing to recognize our sovereignty. So how come the Bayan Ko we know today has no mention of this? To answer that question, let's spring forward to 1929, when Nuestra Patria turned into Bayan Ko, translated into Tagalog by Jose Corazon de Jesus, also known as Joseng Batute, aka Hari ng Balagtasan, or King of Balagtasan. Basically, flip-top a century before flip-top was a thing. De Jesus made a bunch of changes while translating, and maybe that's why he's often credited as the writer, even if he was really the translator. So let's look at the major changes that he made. First, and I think most notably, he changed Anglo-Sajon or Anglo-Saxon into Dayuhan or foreigners. I think Batute deserves some props for being an inclusive king because thanks to him, the song could be applicable to Spain or even Japan eventually. Basically any colonizer. But at the same time, you lose the anti-American sentiment, which was General Alejandrino's whole motivation for writing the song in the first place. And even the title, Nuestra Patria, translates to our fatherland, and Bayan Ko is my country. So something is happening to us versus something is happening to me. To be fair, there were also very different contexts. For the original, we were at war, and in the translation, we were under American occupation. So I guess that's why the first one has a more revolutionary tone, and the second one has a more tortured and oppressed tone. Basically, kawawa tayo. And you can see this in the lines. From the original line being, free yourself from the traitor, it turned into, you are suffering. Nasadlak sa dusa. From, your children will not allow you to be abused, to, I dream to see you free. Aking adhika, makita kang sakdal laya. Because in 1929, we obviously lost the war decades before. So given that context, the translation might have been trying to appease the Americans. We were trying to gain our independence through Congress, through laws, rather than through fighting. Fast forward 40 years, and the song was relevant again as a protest song against injustice, so controversial that Marcos had it banned when he declared martial law in 1972. And you could be arrested or detained just for singing the song in public. But that didn't stop people from singing it, especially underground and in prison, with the most popular version being Freddie Aguilar's 1978 rendition. His version is pretty similar to the 1929 translation. But there was also a new version made by activists in the 1970s, with an edited chorus and a new verse. This version had a more revolutionary take because of the political climate.
Ibon mang may layang lumipad, kulungin mo at pumipiglas.
they used the word pumipiglas instead of umiiyak. So instead of just crying or suffering, the bird wants to escape.
Bukas ay babangon din, ang silang ay pupula sa tinyas ng paglaya.
What you just heard actually came from Lino Broca's film called Bayan Ko, Kapit sa Patalim. The film was named after the iconic song, so of course it was banned by the dictator Marcos. In fact, Lino Broca had to smuggle the film into France for the 1984 Cannes Film Festival, where it was in competition for the film's highest award. So let's talk about another alternate version. This is the last one, I promise. Kay hirap mabuhay sa sariling bayan kung ika'y alipin ng mga dayuhan. Let's focus on this word. So why did activists in the 70s use the word foreigner? I mean, wouldn't the word dictator make more sense? Or maybe the bigger question should be, why was this song, written in the late 1800s about our colonizers, used as a protest song in the 70s? I can personally think of two reasons. First, what the song inspires. Revolution, thoughts of freedom. But also, there are some people who felt like the Philippines really only became free of the colonizers when the US Air Force flew the Marcos family to Hawaii in 1986. I mean, Marcos was backed by the Americans, after all. Let's take a look at Marcos and Reagan toasting each other. This was around 10 years after Marcos declared martial law and around 4 years before the EDSA revolution. All in all, this was Marcos's 17th year in power. The White House hosted a dinner for the dictator Marcos and his family, and Reagan pulled out all the stops, including playing Imelda's favorite song, Dahil Sa'yo.
Dahil sa'yo, which means because of you. Because of you I love, because of you I live, and because of you I am what I am.
President Marcos, we have accomplished a great deal together over the years. Our continuing commitment to one another, resting as it does on many years of close relations, will be solid now and for the future.
The future that he's talking about is the military base agreement, which was something that the Philippines had been trying to get rid of since Manuel Quezon in the 1930s. Even though he was ultimately unsuccessful because keeping the military bases was a key condition in gaining our independence. And eventually it became a motivator for the US to keep Marcos in power.
With the next review of the military bases agreement, which begins in 1983, we shall continue to modernize our security relationship to best serve our mutual security interests.
So some people believe that we were only completely free in 1992, when the US handed over Subic Naval Base to the Philippines, leaving behind thousands of Filipino-American children, fathered with bar girls of Olongapo. But that might be a story for another video. You can check out the film Too Cool to Be Forgotten for a fictionalized account of what happened when the Americans left. But for now, let's wrap up the story of Bayan Ko. So at this point, we've talked about the original Spanish song, the Tagalog translation, and even the 1970s remix. So now what? Where does the song stand today? The first time I ever remember hearing the song, I was a freshman in college. Sadly, it took 18 years. It was during Filipino class, and our professor just asked the class to sing the song, expecting that we would all just know it. But unfortunately, only 2 people knew the song. But the rest of the class, we couldn't even say one word of the song. And our Filipino teacher was upset, shocked, angry, almost disgusted, I would say. He told us that there was a legitimate discussion whether or not this should be our national anthem. I mean, I don't think it's a stretch to say that we might not have gotten our freedom if not for this song. I'm not saying that it should 100% be, but I do think that every single Filipino should know this song. It should definitely be taught in schools, first of all. Maybe it should be sung after the national anthem. Maybe let's have a discussion in the comments. I feel like that makes a lot more sense. How can we make sure the next generations know this song, know its importance, and continue singing it for generations to come? Maybe let me know in the comments if you have an idea. But in the meantime, this video is here to preserve the story of this song, Bayan Ko, the greatest song in Philippine history. Thank you so much for watching this video. I know I haven't posted in a long time, but this video honestly took really long to make. I started researching this video back in Feb after writing, filming, editing, doing all those things myself. It took about a month to get this video out. So if you like this video and you want to support what I do, you can join the Patreon family, or you can support the channel by becoming a member here on YouTube. Whatever works for you works for me too. I'm just really thankful that you're here, you like the content, and you support what I do. And as always, shout out to the Mother Lily channel members, Ashley Martirino and Ma'am Gay Ace Domingo. You guys rock. Thanks so much for the support. But till next time, peace and I love y'all.
Hoy mga Pinoy, ito na ang medisina, nagbabagong apoy, linagyan ng gasolina, kaya't tinatanong pa ba kung kanino at sino ang tiyak na puntahan sa kulturang Pilipino? Ako na ang sagot, ang dakilang gamot.